Hey, what is up, guys? My name is Soy, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite generation of controllers, which came from the seventh generation of gaming consoles, the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Wii U. As we all know, Nintendo then did an early next gen with the Nintendo Switch, and then the PlayStation did the mid gen upgrade with the PS4 Pro, while the Xbox One just branched into the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S. But we're just gonna talk about the base consoles, the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Wii U. Okay, let's start with the Xbox One controller. What I have with me is the updated version that came later with the Xbox One S. This controller has a very streamlined shape. Basically, if you get a modern controller today, they're most probably gonna be based off this Xbox One controller. It's very comfortable to hold, the ergonomics are straight up insane. This controller has a tactile, clicky face buttons that esports athletes love for their snappy feedback and responsiveness. Another standout feature that left a huge impression on me are these bulky triggers. They set a very firm and satisfying press that basically popularized analog triggers. But the actual big upgrade with this updated version is Bluetooth integration. This later version of the Xbox One controller has built in Bluetooth, which allows you to pair it with your PC, your laptop, your smartphone, whatever. And that opens up the door to a world where controllers doesn't have to only connect with the console that it came with, but it can also be connected with other gaming platforms. And I absolutely love it. Now, let's move on to the DualShock 4 or the DS4. Again, I have the upgraded version, which is actually called the new DS4. The main visual difference with the older version is this one has a light bar on top of the touchpad. It gives a little bit of a nicer look to the controller, which I think is a really nice touch. Gaming stuff needs their light gimmicks after all. This controller is jam packed with features. It has a headphone jack, a microphone, a speaker, rumbles, analog triggers, gyroscope, and accelerometers. It has a goddamn clickable touchpad. The amount of features that Sony managed to shove into this controller is absolutely insane. The new DS4 has those squishier feeling buttons. For a lot of older gamers like me, this is the way to go because back in the old days, every controllers were using membrane buttons. So squishier buttons like this just feels more reliable and comfortable. Not to mention quiet. Really come in clutch for dads who doesn't want to wake their wife and kids on those late night gaming sessions. But the amazing thing about this controller when it was released is you know how the PlayStation, PS2, PS3, they all came with basically the same shape controllers? Well, despite looking really different, the moment you grab this controller, the DS4 somehow just feels like a dual shock. Any PlayStation fan will immediately feel right at home holding this controller. It shows Sony's mastery as an experienced hardware company. They did a total rework of the entire controller, yet they still managed to maintain the core feel of its legendary DualShock controller. Now, moving on to the most interesting one, which is the Wii U Pro controller. Okay, disclaimer time. The standard Wii U set actually came with its own unique Wii U gamepad, which is a pretty insane controller on its own, but it wouldn't be fair comparing that one with PlayStation and Xbox controllers. So, we're going with something that is more comparable in terms of form factor. This controller doesn't have a headphone jack. It doesn't have microphones, no speaker, no rumble, no analog triggers. It doesn't even have gaming lights. Well, aside from the humble low battery and player indicators. But the one thing that it does have is pretty spectacular, which is a whooping 100 plus hours of battery life. I kid you not, guys. I have the Wii U for about 12 years maybe now, and charging this controller is an absolute event. It just doesn't happen really often. And this is a bigger deal than you might think it is. Having a practically immortal gadget in a world where everything else is running out of battery feels absolutely friggin' insane. Nintendo was onto something here. The Wii U Pro controller doesn't have any flashy features, but honestly, it has all the basics right. The aesthetics are great, the ergonomics are very comfortable, it's built like a tank, and being one of the oldest gaming company, Nintendo does the buttons just right. Sure, it only has digital triggers, but considering the console's game library, it actually doesn't suffer too much from not having analog triggers. All of the buttons sit in a really sweet spot between Xbox's clicky buttons and PlayStation's squishy buttons. The D-pad is just absolutely amazing. It has arguably the best D-pad for playing retro games and side scrollers, which the Wii U has in abundance. Now, aside from how they do things differently, different button presses, different battery solutions, different features, etc., looking at these three controllers, another huge difference is the thumbstick placements. PlayStation, of course, always has their analog thumbsticks below the face buttons. Xbox basically built their controller off Sega's Dreamcast controller layout, adding that now famous asymmetrical right thumbstick under the action buttons. And Nintendo, look, if I was Nintendo and I see where the other two companies are placing their thumbsticks, then the only way I could go is up. So Nintendo put their thumbsticks above the face buttons. Despite some less adaptable gamers not liking it, I think the thumbstick placements are pretty comfortable if you just give it a fair chance. After all, for PlayStation fans, this is already the correct placements. Two thumbsticks leveled, in just the wrong place. While for Xbox and Sega fans, at least one of the thumbsticks already at the correct place. They simply need to meet it halfway. As for Nintendo fans, well, hardcore Nintendo fans are one of the most adaptable gamers on earth. This is definitely not the first time Nintendo tried to reinvent gaming controllers. What Nintendo did with the thumbsticks was differentiating themselves, and it's been proven from time and time again that having a strong identity would benefit these video game companies more than following safe formulas. By being edgier, it gave Sega the win over Nintendo once, and PlayStation the win over everyone. In this day and age, we see more and more sequels, remasters, remakes. Companies are too afraid to do something new and exciting, which unfortunately is the case for hardware as well. Modern game controllers mostly follow the same boring, safe aesthetics and button placements that blurs the identity of which company made it. As a person who was raised in the arcades of 90s and early 2000s, I kinda miss the good old days when we used to have exciting stuff like guitar controllers, drums, light guns, dance pads, fishing controllers, even maracas. Having all these three controllers line up like this, it's hard for me not to get a bit sentimental. This is one of the rare few times, and probably the last time, when all three competing game companies took three different roads but ends up with similarly great products. They had the balls to innovate, to create controllers that they want to create, to look at their competitors and say, screw that, we're doing our own thing, we're designing our own controllers. So, yeah, this is the set of controllers from my favorite generation of consoles. The time when PlayStation evolves a legacy, Xbox defines a future, and Nintendo, well, Nintendo still living in that creative little bubble that once upon a time we all loved. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you again. My name is Soy, signing out.